everyone, hope you're all well. Today's video is going to be a story time. It's been a whole year since my hand accident and I regularly get messages from you guys who have been on my channel a while asking how my hand is doing, and for those of you who are new to my channel, hi, welcome, I hope you stay. Some of you do not know what happened to my hand, and I do get the same amount of messages asking why I've got a hefty scar on my right hand, so I'm going to fill you in. I'm going to take you back to the 25th of July 2016. It was a Monday afternoon and I was doing the washing up at my house. I was living in flat 4 back then. I wasn't in this house that I am currently living in. But I was doing the washing up and I had my hand inside a glass, and as I was cleaning the glass out with a sponge, it broke, and unfortunately my hand turned as it broke and I got a huge shard of glass embedded in my hand. I didn't feel much pain, and I don't remember actually very much from that evening at all, apart from the fact that I went to A&E and I spent 5.5 hours waiting for this piece of glass to be removed. I eventually saw a doctor and he assured me that he would try and remove the glass, and if it was too painful then he would give me a local anaesthetic. However, he gave me 2 puffs of gas and air and he just went for it with no warning whatsoever. I remember hallucinating quite a bit. I remember seeing my granddad at the foot of the bed, despite the fact that he was no longer with us, and he wasn't with me at the time anyway, so why would I be seeing my granddad at the foot of my bed? And I was also seeing my old Llama Talks logo floating around above my head. It was a really bizarre experience. When the doctor pulled the glass out of my hand, he then literally threw a piece of gauze at James, my husband, and he said, "Wrap her up." We were both a little bit shocked at this because we were both not clean. We'd been waiting in A&E for 5.5 hours. We'd not had a shower, we weren't clean, and a doctor was telling my husband to wrap gauze around my hand. We managed to get the nurse on our side, who kind of gave me some steri strips to put on, and then she wrapped me up briefly, but I said to her, "My fingers aren't moving." She called the doctor back over to me, who had at the time walked away to move on to his next patient, and he told me that it was just the trauma to my hand and that my fingers were just in a bit of shock. I knew this was total nonsense. I know my own hand, I knew that my fingers weren't moving. It wasn't that they were being stubborn. One of my fingers was drooping, and I'll try and insert photos throughout the video of my progress and what happened with my hand, so at times it will be a bit gory, so if it makes you uncomfortable or upsets you a little bit, then I'm really sorry. And then they sent me on my way, they sent me home, and as I got up and out of the bed that I was lying on to have the glass removed, I noticed a piece of glass on the side on the table, and it was about 2.5 inches long and just under an inch wide, and the whole thing was embedded in my hand. I went home, and as you can probably imagine, I didn't sleep very much that night. I was in a lot of stress. I don't really remember much apart from I was sobbing, not hysterical, but I think I was just in a bit of a daze. I hadn't really clocked on what was happening, and I don't really deal with medical things or hospitals or anything to do with me. I get very, very anxious and agitated, and I just did not understand what was going on. 2 days later, so we're now on a Wednesday, I went to my local walk-in centre because I just wasn't happy with the condition of my fingers. And when I say my fingers, it was my middle finger on my right hand and my ring finger on my right hand. They weren't moving. I couldn't move them. My middle finger had a bit of movement with it, but my ring finger was completely drooped down and I couldn't move it at all. I do have a bit of video footage that I will try and insert here, so that you can see just how much I was trying to move my fingers, and I just couldn't do it. I had no explanation for it. The nurse down at the walk-in centre was dumbfounded. She did not know what was going on, so she told me to come back in 2 days and to have it assessed again. So we're now at Friday, and I go back down to the walk-in centre and kicked up a bit of a stink because it had now been 5 days since my accident and I had no idea what was going on. And this new nurse said that I needed to get back to A&E pronto because it just wasn't right. It was bruising, it was purple, it was a really bad injury. With it being a Friday and also the afternoon by this point, the only way of me getting to A&E was to wait for somebody to come home and pick me up. So I decided that I would leave it until the next day, which was a Saturday morning, and I would go there first thing and try and get seen as soon as possible. I saw a further 2 doctors. The first one wasn't really in much belief that there was anything wrong with me. Again, he thought that it was just trauma to my hand and that my fingers were just being a bit stubborn and a bit lazy, a bit in shock. The second doctor, however, was really "You need to move your fingers now, Ellis." And I was like, I literally can't. I'm being honest here. I can't move my fingers. So he referred me to Derby Hospital, which fortunately has an amazing hand clinic. They are one of the best in the country for dealing with hand injuries. So the following Tuesday I went into the hospital. Upon arriving at the hospital, I was seen immediately. I cannot fault their service. It was the best hospital I've ever been to. Not that I've been to many, but Derby they've left a lasting impression on me. They were fantastic from beginning to end, and I can't thank them enough for everything they did for me. However, I sat down with my consultant, and his name was Dr. Armstrong. He was an absolute diamond, but within 30 seconds of plonking my ass on the seat and showing him my hand, he was like, "Yeah, you've severed a tendon." Obviously, receiving that kind of news, I was like, what does that mean? And he said that the glass had basically gone through my hand and gone straight through the tendon that was linking basically all the movement to my ring finger. Because of the injury, it was also kind of affecting the middle finger as well, which is why the middle one wasn't moving too much either. But he sent me for an x-ray just to double check that there weren't any more pieces of glass in there, and then we decided that I would have surgery. I had the choice of having a local anaesthetic in my hand being opened up, or he said that I could have a needle to the neck which would paralyse half of my body, which I wasn't keen on having a needle that close to my face, I'll be honest, and I also wasn't keen on having one side of my body like completely numb and unable to move. So I went for the local anaesthetic, and then I started to get really, really upset. The thought of going for a surgery full stop absolutely terrifies me, let alone being awake for it, and also having something so close to me because, you know, I'm a short person, I haven't got the longest arms, and even stretching my arm all the way out, it wasn't that far away. But I went for surgery about half an hour later, and the surgery itself lasted about half an hour, but the nurses and the surgeon in there again, they were like flawless. I cannot fault them. They were checking in on me literally every 5 minutes. I was able to take my iPhone in there with my earphones, and I was able to just kind of numb out the sounds of anything that was going on. I was allowed to recover for about an hour afterwards, and the nurses gave me a drink and some biscuits, and it was actually really relaxing. I mean, of course I was crying and I was really upset, and in a lot of I was in shock, and I couldn't really deal with the fact that I'd just gone through surgery, and I was absolutely terrified. I remember being on the way home actually and telling my mum, because she came with me for the surgery, I want a chocolate milkshake, and she took me to McDonald's to get a drive-thru, and I remember them giving me a banana one instead, and I was absolutely livid. I was like, how can you do this to me? Why would you give me a banana milkshake? I wanted a chocolate one. I wasn't a vegan at the time either, so no hate for that, please. But yeah, I went home and I had physio and a checkup on my hand near enough every week to 2 weeks after the surgery for 3 months. I was told from the very first piece of physio, and also having the stitches removed and seeing the nurses on a regular basis, that my hand would never be the same again. One of the nurses even told me that you'll never draw again, and that piece of news hit me like the biggest ton of bricks. I couldn't understand how a piece of glass in my hand had it was threatening my entire life. It was threatening my career, everything that I was passionate about. I was so upset. The physios told me that I would have to teach myself to write again and to draw again. I'd be lucky to do my job ever again, which was working with dogs and handling dogs. Luckily, I don't do that anymore, but I am a full-time illustrator now, and the strain that sometimes I've put myself under to try and get up to speed again has been a nightmare. I don't think I pushed myself too far in terms of I've not actually injured myself, but there are days when I've been drawing for too long and my hand is like swollen, it's sore, it's gone hot, it's gone cold. When it is really cold, it goes purple and the scar itself goes purple. I don't think I've got any photos of that, but it goes purple. And in the beginning, I was teaching myself to write and draw with my left hand because I was just so terrified of my hand not being the same ever again. My hand hasn't been the same, unfortunately. It never will be. I'm always at a risk as well of my tendon pinging back. It will never fix fully. It will never heal fully because of the nature of the tendon. It's quite a thin area to work with, and also because of how tendons work, they almost have to knit back together again, and once they're broken, they're never as strong ever again. It's been very frustrating when I haven't been able to draw for longer than 5 minutes at a time, but I've gradually built that up now, and I can draw for about 10-15 minutes without having to need a break. But after that amount of time, I need to have a bit of a stop and a massage and put my hand in something warm. But that has been my journey for the past year, and it's been a crazy experience. Having a scar that's so visible as well, I mean, you can see from the photos that it is quite a big scar. I do catch people looking at it sometimes and it doesn't bother me. I'd rather in fact people just ask me rather than, you know, just sit and stare. I mean, I'm fine with it. I'm fine telling people what happened. It did happen, there's nothing I can do about that. But it is what it is, and I've just had to adapt to having this awkward injury with my hand. Every day it gets stronger, and every day I do some form of exercise, and I'm also still doing physio on it. And I'm also grateful to YouTube for giving me some kind of creative outlet, because although I was having to edit things with my left hand, I mean, try using your left hand with a mouse, it is a lot harder than it sounds. It gave me some kind of creative platform, it gave me a reason to be creating, and I like to upload videos, and it was fun to do that back then, back when I couldn't draw and I couldn't write my own name. I spent 3 months and it felt like so much longer. And I guess in a way I'm still classed as in recovery, because I still do struggle with it, and it's probably something that I'm going to struggle with for a very, very long time, if not the rest of my life. But as I said, it happened and there's nothing I can do about that other than adapt to the way things are. But that's the story behind my hand injury, and now you know why I have a bloody big scar on my hand. It's not the end of the world, and honestly it doesn't bother me as much. It's not as bad as it looks. Like, some people look at the scar and they're like, oh, that looks bad. Yeah, it was bad at the time, but you know what, it could have been a lot worse. I could have lost fingers, I could have lost a hand. At least I still have my hand, and at least my fingers all work. Although they are a bit slow and they are very stiff and they get sore, at least I have all of my fingers, and at least I have my hand working properly again. So Darby, you are amazing. You're probably never going to watch this video, but thank you so much for everything you did for me. I wouldn't have gone anywhere else for that treatment. Also, a huge thank you to the NHS. I do not know what I would have done without you. So I hope this voiceover video went well. It was my first time doing a voiceover, so I hope it sounds okay, and I hope you were alright with this new kind of content. If you're wondering about the footage that I used for this video, my intentions for this video was to show you like a time lapse of me painting my favourite scene from Fantasia, which is my favourite Disney. But it was so strainful on my hand, and it took me 2 days to complete that painting, that it was going to take a really, really long time and a very, very long video to showcase that. So I wanted to do something a little bit different and thought this was the perfect opportunity to do so. I also included some packing of orders, so let me know in the comments if you can spot your order down there. If I've been packing it in this video, do let me know. And once again, a huge thank you to any of you who have ever supported my work, or even just my channel. If you're still here all the way back from September, August last year, you are amazing, and I'm so happy to have you on this channel. I love you all. Have a good day everyone, and I'll speak to you all soon. Bye!